Hello, welcome to Staring to the Abyss. I'm your host, Richard Gerlach, complete with an ice bucket head that delivers ice to the blowhole because I am a dolphin underneath this human skin. With me, as always, is the dog man, Matt Brandenburg.
I don't even know where to go with that. Hi.
And the leopard woman, Vitlame Mist.
Wow. Hi, guys.
Wait, now I get it. You're what's his name? Marlon Brando.
Marlon Brando reference from the Monroe movie from the 90s. Just a piece of shit. But that the fucking ice bucket thing.
Oh my gosh.
Fucking shit. Like
I need to watch that movie again. I don't remember a lot of it.
Well, like in the production of the movie, Marlon Brando was infamous for like not giving a fuck.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. I mean, it was at that point in time, like he was like, I don't give a shit. I'm just gonna perform badly, and you're gonna deal with it.
Well, the thing is, he never performed badly. He improv his lines, and he was always fucking great.
Oh god.
He was like,
he had a microphone in his ear, and so they would read him scripts, but like what would happen a lot is he would pick up like police scanners and so in the middle of the line.
That was in one of the movies that happened.
Oh my gosh.
He would never read the script. Like, but he'd been doing this since the 70s. Apocalypse Now, he never read the script for Apocalypse Now. He gave improv speeches.
Oh yeah.
Apocalypse Now.
They had like everything written on like a piece of board, and they were like continually like tapping on the board, like Marlo, you're supposed to read from this.
Yeah, but like
it was to the point that Martin Sheen like collapsed and cried.
And like he just like Marlon Brando's the king of just not giving a fuck.
Oh my god.
And like part of like with the Alan Dr. Monroe movie, which is a really bad movie, like it's not a good movie. And the reason why we're having this tangent will be explained in a minute.
Yeah, because people are gonna be like, what are you guys covering this week?
The reason why this movie was so infamous is like Marlon Brando is like, I'm just gonna fuck with the production. Like, I don't give a shit. And like there was like one point in the movie where like he was hot where they were filming. So he told the production crew he wanted an ice bucket hat because his character was hot. So he wanted a hat that they could put ice in, like it was a bucket he'd put on his head that would keep him cool because his character was hot.
Oh my gosh.
And then he later said his character was actually a dolphin. The ice bucket hat was covering the blowhole that was in his head, and the ice was going inside the blowhole to keep his character's body cooled down because he's a dolphin.
So insane.
Yep.
We are talking about The Island of Dr. Death and Other Stories by Gene Wolfe. Which
people are like, no.
Which you can listen to an audio recording on podcastle.com. I've never listened to the audio recording. I do know I've read the short story several times. I've taught the short story several times. So I don't know how well the transitions handle in audio because I think it might be confusing for some of it, but we'll get into that when we get into the story.
Yeah.
But you can listen to it for free online. You can find it in the Gene Wolfe book, The Island of Dr. Death and Other Stories and Other Stories. You can also find it in the Gene Wolfe collection, The Very Best of Gene Wolfe, which is where I first discovered it, as well as it has two companion stories too.
Interesting.
The companion stories have nothing to do with this story.
Okay.
He carries themes over into the companion stories, and the companion stories are called The Death of Dr. Island, and then he has another one called The Death of the Island Doctor.
Okay.
Very creative titles.
Those carry the themes. Well, Isaac Asimov gave him those titles, actually.
Oh, that makes sense.
And those carry the themes of the story into like other perspectives, but those are more like hard sci-fi stories than this one is.
Oh my gosh. He's like, my first book is gonna be called Foundation, and I think my second book will be called Second Foundation.
Or
Genius.
No, you forgot. First primer, then foundation, and then second foundation, and then powder. And I'm just speaking because I don't even know if this is correct because I don't do makeup, but yeah.
He called blush.
You forgot about the contouring, Vitlame. It's all about the contouring.
It's all about the contouring, which I know nothing about. I just see like dark streaks on a woman's face, and I'm like, what magic is this?
Amazing.
I will say too, like with this story, there's a lot going on, as with most of Gene Wolfe's work. And I don't know if any of you have read Gene Wolfe before.
No, this is my first time.
He has a lot of subtext and a lot that like goes on in his work that like even his short fiction. Like the first time I read this story, I was like, what the fuck did I read? And then like after the third time I read it, I was like, oh, I get it now. But
so wait, is he more like known for being a science fiction author?
A science fiction fantasy.
Yeah.
He does have a couple horror stories. He writes in a wide array of genres, but his whole thing is like he is very obtuse with a lot of the stuff that he does. Because he's kind of like the thing about Gene Wolfe, and I'll get about this when we get into the story, he's one of those writers where there's a lot of stuff happening between the lines of the story.
Yeah.
And it takes like processing to understand what is he telling us versus what is really happening between the lines.
Yeah.
And I think this story, once you understand, I think it has a lot of beautiful things to say about like fiction as escapism. And that's why I like this story a lot, because I think it's very heartfelt about fiction. But like he is not an easy author to read. I will say that.
I feel like you have to be like in a certain mindset to get into Gene Wolfe.
Yeah, like I've read a couple of his novels, and they're like, I have to read slow because he just does a lot of narrative tricks and a lot of like just things that he does that you don't fully understand what he's saying, either until you get to the end or maybe until you read it a second time. And then once you go through it the second time, you're like, oh fuck, like he was doing this the entire time. I had no fucking idea. But like, yeah, he's not for like your average reader. I will give that caveat. But I am not your average book reader myself, so that goes with it. But before we dive into what the Island of Dr. Death and Other Stories is about, why don't we give a weekly recommendation? I know we didn't do last week because Stokercon happened.
Yeah.
And I think Matt has a lot of wonderful things to say about Stokercon.
True.
And I have a lot of what the fuck did I just watch things to say about Men. Because I saw Men last night, directed and written by Alex Garland.
Oh, buddy.
I was very excited to see this movie, and I like 90% of it. I think 90% of it is a really good movie. The concept, no spoilers. The concept is our main character is a woman named Harper. At the beginning of the movie, her husband either committed suicide or accidentally fell off a balcony.
Oh.
And she is renting a mansion in the British countryside because all good things happen in the British countryside. And
especially just renting a mansion, what the heck?
Yeah. And she begins getting stalked by men who all have the same face, but are all different men. And that's kind of the movie.
Does he do different voices?
He does do different voices.
Okay.
Oh.
And they do camera tricks to kind of change his size. There's also makeup that they use to kind of distort his face a little bit.
Okay.
There's also a good amount of penis in this movie too. We might be talking about some nudity today. So you do get some nice schlong shots. Body.
Do they do camera tricks and makeup with that?
No, it's just a flaccid penis that is one time erect.
Perfect. I mean, I guess if the movie's called Men, you're gonna show that you're gonna show a penis. So
the movie has really good tension, really good comedy, And it is funny. Like there is like the comedy is intentional. There's some really funny parts in it, some really tense parts in it, some creepy parts in it. There's like a gore scene in this movie that is reminiscent of like the weird imagery from Annihilation.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
Like let's just say an arm turns into two arms after a incident happens.
Interesting.
And the gore is good, the violence is intense, the movie itself like had me on the edge of my seat for a lot of it. And then the ending, it becomes one of those movies where the director decided to prioritize the metaphor over the story, which is a choice. I think it's a bad choice, but it's a choice. And if you don't understand the metaphor, you're going to leave this movie confused. And when the ending was happening, I'm not going to spoil, so there'll be no spoilers. An event happens over and over and over again, and by the time it happened, the third or fourth time, my theater just went. Like 3 people were like, "What the fuck am I watching?" And then people started laughing, and like it was just it just got ridiculous. But that was Men. We did get a red band trailer for Crimes of the Future, which made 2 people in the theater walk out for a few minutes.
Nice.
So I'm really excited to see the French actress. What's her name? Like Léa Seydoux, I think it is.
Sure.
I don't know her name. The French actress that's in the movie. I'm really excited to see her orgasm while she unzips Viggo Mortensen like he's a jacket, because that is gonna be fucking prime cinema.
It's gonna be interesting for sure.
Fucking prime cinema. And no, that actually is in the preview, the red band preview. She unzips Viggo Mortensen's abdomen and begins licking inside his body.
No.
I mean, it's a thing, right?
That's a fetish, if that's anything.
The trailer, they say, like, all I know about the movie now after this red band trailer, besides the bodily licking,
that was it.
Well, they say the phrase like surgery has become the new sex.
Yeah.
The movie's all about like body transformation.
It's about like pain is a new sex.
Yeah, well, it's like getting off to surgery, getting off to like they explained Viggo Mortensen's character has gone under so many body surgeries that the insides of his body have been completely rearranged.
Yeah.
And like so like I think it has a lot to say about transhumanism. And I think part of the movie, the whole Crimes of the Future thing, is they're trying to create a new organ to put inside Viggo Mortensen. Because they're saying something like that in the trailer as well. That's kind of all I know. I'm trying to avoid as many trailers as I can because I'm just excited. We have a new David Cronenberg movie that feels like he's going back to his roots.
Yeah.
And
speaking of David Cronenberg, I think if I remember my memory is a kind of blur from what happened. But I think David Cronenberg came here to Iceland.
Ooh. Huh. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, and he was holding a signing, like autograph signing, in Nexus, which is our basically only geek store in Reykjavik. And I hadn't known about it, and I decided I wanted to go there after work. And I had, for the occasion, I had made Rice Krispie candy, Rice Krispies. And as I waited in line, I then saw him, and he was like being really nice. And as he was going to, sign my paper, I handed him the Rice Krispie treats, and I was like, if you want, I would love you to have this, because I really love your stuff, and I don't know, maybe you're hungry. And he just gave me like the most sympathetic smile ever, and he's like, oh, thank you, but I can't, but no thanks. And I I felt so embarrassed. I was like, oh, okay. And I had to take the plate back, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do with it now? Eat it by myself?
You just
So-
look at him and throw it away really slowly.
He just so David Cronenberg rejected my treats.
That's amazing.
But
my God.
I kind of think it was, I get it, because, you're not supposed to, accept anything from fans because it might be poison or anything like that.
That's true.
So yeah, I get it. But at the time, I was mortified.
Oh my gosh. So 2 things for that. One would have been funny if you caught him like in the back and he's just mowing down on a bunch of Rice Krispies somebody else brought him. Or 2, you find out this movie is about that situation.
If that fucking happens, I'm just gonna go to Hollywood and be like, I deserve my share, you dick.
You bastard. First you didn't eat my Rice Krispies.
First you reject my cookies, and then you use it in your fucking film. And it's not even good.
It's not even good. That's so amazing. We should make a movie about that making of a movie. That's and that would be the title. David Cronenberg Rejected My Rice Krispies.
Yes.
David Cronenberg crispy treats.
I had like buried this memory for like 5 years now. But then when he started announcing like, hey, there's a new David Cronenberg movie coming, and I was like, wait, David Cronenberg, and then the memory just came crashing in, and I'm like, oh no, not that thing.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna see interviews with him and he's gonna be like, man, this one time I was in Iceland.
this little weird girl came here.
I will say though is like I'm really excited to see people walking over the movie during this.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, and they're all, that's gonna be the treat, is a bunch of Rice Krispies.
Yeah.
Man, I'm gonna make a bunch of Rice Krispie treats when I go see this movie.
Yes, please do.
And take pictures and then tag him.
Because not only are you helping me, but you're gonna be annoying so many people by munching on it.
We're like, what you eating there? Rice Krispies. And we're like, what is happening?
I mean, you hear that thing so much louder than popcorn.
Oh my God.
Crunch, crunch, crunch.
Oh, I love this so much. This is the best. I just want his whole movie, just Viggo Mortensen in one scene, just like
eating Rice
chomping away.
Krispies.
And like through the zipper, you can see them like go through into his stomach and they're still full. And David Cronenberg be like, this is a message. It'll be Viggo Mortensen like sitting in a land of ice eating Rice Krispies. Oh, I'm happy now. Game over.
What about you?
All right, so I will do our little rundown. I was at Stokercon last week. Well, by the time this airs, it'll be 2 weeks ago in Denver. It was a blast. It was great to see everybody. I think for a lot of people, I think this was their first con after all COVIDness. I know a number of people that were not. They had gone to many other ones, but just what I picked up as I was meeting everybody, this was like the first big one that everyone was able to attend. So very cool. Tons of great panels, seeing everybody, the guests of honor, Brian Keane, Jim Files, and everybody was super cool just to listen to them talk about things. And the film fest, I went to that. That was super cool. There was it was like almost 2 hours of shorts, and it was just really cool to see what everyone could do. And it was a little bit of everything from like really serious stuff. And I'm going to apologize now. I don't remember titles for like 90% of these. So whatever. Just a lot of cool, like serious stuff. There was like one about this like black, like box thing floating in the middle of the air. And like it could predict when you were going to die. And then there was one that reminded it. It was called something about birds. It's like it's killing all the birds or something like that. And it was straight up, like interpretation of like Adam Neville, Laird Barron story that never existed. So I'm going to say that now. This isn't an adaptation of any of those, but watching it, and it's just about all these birds that are dying in this like English countryside, and there's like this farmer and his wife, and they're having issues because the farmer drinks a lot. And then at one point they see this weird like creature thing hiding behind a bush, and he ends up shooting it. But just everything in this little short, I was like, God, this feels like watching like unofficial Neville or Barron story. So that was really cool. Watched this hilarious short called Meet Friend, and it was done in a style not quite. It would. Only reason I'm going to say it would remind you of Too Many Cooks is because of the font and the way they were playing on like a 90s sitcom.
Too many cooks.
Yeah. So like take that and then take maybe a little bit of like a Psycho Goreman, and you have this like mix where you have this little girl that wants to eat something. So she takes a tray of looked like just raw beef, like ground beef, and microwaves it, which is extremely gross. Yeah. And then it turns into this little like meat puppet that talks to her, and she's the only one that can see it. And it's just this hilarious to meet puppets trying to get her, like teaching her how to make a shiv, and how people aren't supposed to tell secret, or like people aren't supposed to reveal secrets. And like, this is how you do coke. And it was just like totally ridiculous. That was fun. There was a short by the guys who did Scare Package called Guts, in which it was an office setting, and the main character, his guts are just hanging out of his stomach, and people think he's the dork of the group, but partly because of his guts, partly just because he is. And so there's this really cool bully comes into this office, and he's gonna rule the office. And so then there's like a big battle, and it's just over the top goofy. If you watch Scare Package, you'll know what to expect. Then there was, and I ended up picking up this book, but oh my gosh, Carlton Melick III, he has a novella called, and I'm going to butcher the title.
So every day we meet at the Dairy Queen, your fucking face explodes?
Yes. So there's a short video on that, and it was amazing and a lot of fun, and it did prompt me to buy the novella and read it in one sitting on the plane, and it was a blast. So yeah, Stokercon was great. There's a funny incident with somebody walking around with a potato, which the rumor joke after the fact is that this person did it just to cause a scene, and they certainly did, because we were finding potatoes everywhere. And then let's see, Danger Slater had a running gag about peanut butter and jelly, and this is just to prove that if you need a guy, I'm your guy, because he did end up getting peanut butter and jelly after the fact. So if you ever need something, I'm around, hit me up. I know somebody who knows somebody. So Stokercon was great. It was a blast meeting everyone. People are listening. If you were there, it was awesome meeting you. Also, I have all your business cards. We'll work something out, but it was so much fun. So that's my Stokercon report,
And
2022.
Vitlame, what about you?
Well, haven't really done a lot of things, just focusing on trying to put the goddamn novel into my laptop, which I actually finished yesterday. Woohoo!
Yay!
But I did finish reading Junji Ito's latest book called Lovesickness.
Oh,
Lovesickness was a good one.
Yeah, it's a good one. So basically, like, the majority of the book is like one big like one long short story, basically.
Kind of like a version of a novella.
Yeah. It's like a manga version of novella. I would agree with that. It's about this like this one town in Japan that is like really always foggy, and when it comes to these little low streets, they have a lot of intersections, and there's this trend in this town that they want to go do like fortune telling. So you wait at an intersection, and the first person that crosses by, you have to ask him for your fortune. And usually it's like the girls are always like, it's always about their love life or anything like that, and they have to do and they kind of try to interpret the fortune that they get. But then it starts with like this one eerie ghost-looking guy who always comes by, but like in their terms, he looks like really beautiful, and I'm like, I mean, sure. Like in manga standards, I guess.
Yeah, I was gonna say
it's beautiful.
Yeah, like they think it's so beautiful, and when they ask him to tell them their fortune, he just and like they always ask, "Will I find love?" And he bluntly says, "Nope, you won't."
Nice.
And it kind of has this effect on them that they just like think everything is hopeless, and they just kill themselves with a box cutter. They just they just slit their throats just right on the street.
Wow.
And it kind of like becomes like an endemic there. Like it ends up like a lot of girls try to go and find him, and when they do, they ask him the same questions, and mass like at one point there was like a mass suicide.
Jeez.
And how was the story starts is like there's a guy who moves back to the place. He used to be there. He used to live there when he was a kid, and he didn't want to go back because he actually is the cause of this. Like inadvertently, he's the cause of this.
Huh.
He met a woman who asked him for her fortune, and he was like in a really bad mood, and he was just a little kid. I think he was 6 years old or something. And this woman is just like, I need to tell you about my love life. And he's like, what the fuck? Why? And she's like, I had an affair with my boss, and I got pregnant, and I want to keep the baby, but my boyfriend told me not to. He told me to get rid of it. What should I do? And he's like, why are you asking me this?
Oh my gosh.
And he just gets really annoyed. He's like, I don't care what the fuck you do with it. Just destroy it or something. I don't know. And the woman takes it to heart and kills herself.
Wow.
And he feels like he is the cause of it. And as soon as he gets back in town, like this and escalates. So it's like up to him. Like he feels it's his obligation to kind of eradicate this new threat. And he kind of does in the end, but it's left like most of Junji Ito's stories. They're left like ambiguously.
Yeah.
So you're like you have this like ambiguous ending. So you're like, did he succeed? Did he not succeed? I'm not really sure. Like it almost ends on a hopeful ending, but at the same time you're like, not really sure though. It's still happening.
I have a question that I know Matt wants to ask.
Okay.
Sure.
Is there any poop in the story?
What?
Well, I mean, you mean in the book?
Yes.
Yeah, it's the last little story at the end of the book, and it's like I have no idea what the fuck is it about.
Wow.
Yep, I remember that story. That's fine.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't like. I think it was. I think it's actually it did. I think it happened to Junji when he was little. But I'm not really sure. And this story makes absolutely no fucking sense. It's not scary.
It's really gross.
It's really gross and it's ridiculous. And I'm like, okay. Don't know if it was supposed to be a palate cleanser, but glad you put it at the end of the book.
I think it was meant to be like a comedy story, but like
but a Junji Ito comedy story.
He's not the best when it comes to comedies.
Have some funny stories.
It depends.
Yeah, it depends.
But a lot of them, I think his humor is a bit too Japanese.
It is, yeah.
So it doesn't really translate outside of like his culture.
Yeah.
Or his head.
Or his head.
Yeah.
So, like, his humor is very juvenile.
It is, yeah, definitely.
Oh my gosh. No, I was gonna ask, sorry, is there anybody with like tongue? Is there any tongue stuff?
Yep.
Because like reading his other stuff, and I know we've covered him before.
He's smashed before.
Yeah, he does this thing with tongues a lot, so I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, he managed to make tongues look gross.
Yeah.
And yeah, he does that in a couple of the stories.
Oh my gosh.
But
Oh,
it's yeah,
Junji
it's just
Ito.
I just really don't love him because his way of drawing everything by hand
Yeah.
in such a grotesque style, I just love it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what else? I haven't finished it yet, but we're my husband and I were watching Love, Death, and Robots right now.
Nice.
Oh, the new season's a lot of fun.
The new season is so much fun.
I love how they did the 3 Robots sequel episode. It was nice to see the 3 robots back.
I mean, the one it was the first episode, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was depressing as fuck though.
I mean, the first 3 robots episode was depressing as fuck.
Yeah, well, I mean, but in the ways like you were looking at it like, hey, look at that! It's our inevitable future. It was that kind of depressing. That was what I was talking about. I was like, don't like
I
it.
think that my favorite gag is when they go into the bunker.
Oh yeah.
Like a fungus destroyed their crops, so they had to resort to what they called extreme democracy.
Yes.
This skeleton on a platter in the middle of the table.
Yeah, and it was the guy who was the chief of agriculture, and I thought it was so funny.
Did you catch the what it said on the vote slips when they looked at the vote slips for a second?
I don't remember it.
The vote slip said Steve.
Oh yeah.
Fuck you, Steve, and all the other Steve.
Nice.
Yeah, I think this season is better than the last season.
The last season, it felt like they were trying to do like shorts that were going to have sequels.
Yeah.
And they never felt like they were full, complete stories.
Yeah.
And this one feels like season 1 where they have complete stories.
Yes. We finished how many? I think we finished 4 episodes right now.
I loved the pirate ship one with a giant crustacean.
Holy shit, it was so good. It was so creepy and it was so vivid and gory as fuck.
Yeah, it was brutal. Like,
and not like the way that the crustacean used the corpse to communicate. I was like, okay, we've entered that territory. Oh my god, that's horrifying. But I just loved like the actors, the characters, like they were really good.
Yeah, it was a really vivid like Love, Death, and Robots is like the end of every episode's a different animation style. It's always beautiful. Like, it's always top notch.
My favorite so far though has been Kill Team Kill.
Is that from the new season?
Yeah, it's in the new season, and it's I think it's the third. No, it's the fourth. No, actually, I finished five episodes. It's the 4th episode. It feels like it's drawn in the Venture Brothers styles.
Oh, nice!
Awesome.
A little bit, but it's a lot more refined. I think doesn't have as much like edges to their bodies. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel like their chin is gonna cut you in half.
Yeah.
And the animation is so good. The story is bonkers. I just kept laughing the entire time because it was so brutal. It was it was so wild. The characters were amazing. There was like it's based like I can't even say how. It's kind of like with aliens. It's like a team. It's like a team of I think it was mercenaries or some kind of army dudes. They're trying to go to this one point, and they encounter a genetically engineered bear. That's like basically all machine, and that bear is like on a rampage and like destroys everything. And the best thing about it, the guys don't acknowledge the bear as a bear. They keep telling you that it's a honey badger. They're like, "You fucking honey badger," and I kept screaming at the screen like, "It's a bear, you assholes!"
It's amazing.
And the camaraderie, like how the soldiers interact, it's like chef's kiss. It was so good. I was like, I need a movie. I need a series with these guys immediately because it was so good. It felt so organic. There's this one at this one point, one guy he gets his leg eaten off by the bear, and he of course dies from the wound because he's losing blood. And the captain, he just comes over to him and he's like, "You're gonna make it. It's okay. It's okay." And the guy is like, "Hey, I know I'm not gonna make it, but tell my wife I fucked her sister." And I just when he was passing, I was like, he's gonna say something like that. He's not gonna say I love her or anything like that. He's gonna say he fucked her brother or something.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing.
I think like from this like that episode is my favorite of the season so far. Then comes the Thanapod episode, and
so fucking good.
Yeah, and the third one is about the woman astronaut who's stranded on Io.
That's a good one.
That was a really good one. It was like the imagery was a fantastic.
Yeah.
And I loved how they managed to mix. It was kind of like an anime mixed with realistic comic style.
It was a really I don't know. I just love this show. It's such a good show.
It is, and I can't.
Also,
I don't. What?
Did you catch who directed the Thetapod episode?
Oh, wait, what was it again?
It was David Fincher.
Yeah, it was David Fincher. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
I couldn't believe it, to be honest.
I was shocked.
Yeah, I was like, what?
David
You can do good now?
Hey.
It's like I've almost forgiven him.
He did Mank. We forgive him.
Yeah.
He's given us too much good stuff to like.
Well,
he gave us 7.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
Give us the
guess. Game. Yeah.
He gave us Pet Room.
Okay, fine. He gave me Valentine the Zombie Tiger. I guess that's a good thing.
Oh, you wait.
Wait, am I? No. Oh shit! No, I'm confusing him with Snyder. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Those are 2 different people.
I know. I was like, no, wait, that's no. Whoops. I hope if David Fincher, if you're listening, I'm sorry. Didn't mean that. You're much better director than Snyder.
He has famously listened to us. Now he's hung up on us.
Oh no! I'm so sorry.
Fincher did give us Alien 3, so I mean.
Yeah.
That's like a whole other story.
That's true.
I know.
But I'm really enjoying. When did Tim Miller though decide to jump on this?
Tim Miller, like the director?
Yeah.
He's been behind it since season 1.
Oh, he has. Okay. I mean, he's been doing a fantastic job.
He owns the animation studios that make this.
Blur?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. So he's doing a fantastic job. He should just keep doing this. Make more.
I think he directed in one episode of season 1. That was the one that mixed the live action and CG with Tobey Maguire.
Oh yeah.
Tim Miller directed that episode in season 1.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so far I don't know how many episodes I have left, but I'm loving it. So definitely if you like seeing these kind of short stories that are being brought to life through different animations, you should definitely check out all the seasons of Love, Death, and Robot. And
just 2 more things. I decided to splurge, and I got volume 1 of Elfquest.
Nice.
Which was an independent comic that started back in like 1978. If you're into comics, if you're into fantasy, and you've never heard of Elfquest, like, fix that, because this is really, really fantastic fantasy. It has elements of sword and sorcery. It has actually some sci-fi elements in there too. It actually has some anti-colonialist themes in this as well.
Okay.
1970s is pretty interesting that they went that route.
Yeah.
But overall, the premise, at least of volume 1, is many years ago, a palace fell from the sky, and this brought the elves into this world. And the world of the comic is kind of like a Conan the Barbarian style, like fantasy world. And several generations go by. The human-like characters view the elves as demons. and they're trying to sacrifice and kill the elves. Our main characters of elves get separated from their tribe, and they get sent far away in the land, and they have to venture through this uncharted territory of the world to try to return back to their elven tribe and make sure that they're okay. And while they're doing this, they learn the secrets of how they ended up on this world, why they're on this world, and what the purpose of their race has been the entire time.
Nice.
It is a blast. And I also started Kagan the Damned by Jonathan Mayberry, which is his first foray into fantasy.
Sweet.
And this is sword and sorcery fantasy meets high fantasy meets H.P. Lovecraft.
Oh.
So if any of those sound up your alley, check this book out. It is insanely readable. It's Mayberry, and he is having a blast with this. The opening is literally our main character wakes up hungover and naked, and there's a war happening outside of his bunk.
Amazing.
So it hits the ground running, and it just goes on from there.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
But does anyone else have any recs, or should we dive into the Island of Dr. Death and other stories?
I think we should go visit this island / beach / I don't even know.
All right. So this is a weird title for a story.
Yeah.
But it makes sense because he's reading the Island of Dr. Death.
Yeah.
And the stories are his story of what's happening around.
But like, it's just.
It's a weird
maybe like there's not multiple other stories. I mean, I guess if you consider the mom, but like that's all tied to him.
That's everything. Everything's tied to him.
So like it's just Island of Dr. Death and other story.
And so this is pretty much it's
pretty much like Page Master.
Page Master.
Yeah.
So this story is written in the second person.
A never-ending story?
Yeah, a little never-ending story. There it is.
The Island of Dr. Death is written in second person, which is hard to do and hard to do this well.
Yeah.
I think if it's your first time listening, well, let me ask this before we dive into it. Was the audio confusing to listen to? Because I feel like it might have been.
I didn't think it was.
No, I didn't think so.
Okay.
The narrator did a good job of playing with the voices a little bit. In fact, I even what's the kid's name? Tacky?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Tackman, and they call him Tacky for short.
Which was a very interesting name choice. But the narrator does a really funny thing with his voice, especially when he's talking to like his aunts. And I kind of like only reason that took me a second was just because it was funny. It's really like down and depressing. It's like, nothing, just reading a book.
It goes really mopey.
Yeah. But he did a good job with like doing like, especially when it was what I really liked, and we can get into the story in a second, but when it would go from, we'll say, real life to the book, he like amped up his voice and read it with a little bit more action. So I didn't think it was confusing. I thought it was cool. Listen,
because I feel like I felt the transitions from Tacky real life to him reading the book would have been weird in audio, but I'm glad to see they made it work.
Yeah.
They did. They did it. It was good. Yeah, I didn't feel confused at all.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it took a second to, and I know we'll get into it, but it took a second when he started introducing Dr. Death characters into real life. That like took me like just like a heartbeat, because I was like, well, his voice isn't different, but then you have, I don't remember who the dashing hero is, but like
Captain Ransom.
Yeah,
the names are so funny in that.
Well, like I that's what I want to get into that too, because I mean we could just start with this, like going over the basic story. The main focus is on Tacky, and he's kind of just a quiet boy, and his life isn't that great.
No.
His mother has a drug problem that is heavily alluded to in the text.
Yeah.
His mother's boyfriend is a pretty shitty guy.
Yeah.
Probably her dealer as well, I would think.
Yeah.
He takes Tacky into town. Tacky finds a book called The Island of Dr. Death. Boyfriend steals it. And then Taki begins reading the book and using the book as a form of escapism to kind of escape the harsh realities that he's living around.
Yeah.
And the story just kind of goes on from there, with his mother's drug addiction getting worse. His aunts, who I don't really think are his aunts.
Yeah,
No.
I was trying to figure that all out.
And characters from the book begin bleeding into reality, and I kind of see that as Taki either looking for reassurance or looking for a way to escape from the situation happening around him.
Yeah. The funny thing, was like, and I might not remember correctly. It was a couple days ago when I listened to it. But like when the characters come in, they're not, except for the last scene, I don't remember the characters like doing anything special for him. They were just sort of talking to him, but they weren't like, hey, go over there and get this thing. They were just like, join the party.
They talk the party scene, which we can get to in a bit. They talk to him about that, but like the first time he talks to like Dr. Death, there's like that one kind of scene, and then his aunt's like, "Who are you talking to?"
Yeah,
you kind of saw her like Dr. Death in the form of an actual person.
Yeah, I thought that was a little bit like, okay, so is it real or is it fiction?
Yeah.
That's kind of what Gene Wolfe likes to do a lot in his stories. That's a Gene Wolfe trope.
Yeah.
And then there's also like when he sees these characters, they don't really help him or help him do anything.
Yeah.
It's more of a way to like kind of show his imagination from the book bleeding into the life around him. Yeah. And that's just how I see it, which to me kind of shows he's trying to like make the situation he's living in to be a bit more lighter than like it really is.
Yeah, he's not trying to make it extraordinary. He's just like making it like a little bit less mundane than it is.
Yeah,
because than it is.
Because usually it would, the way it kind of like a little bit of a pattern that he was writing this in Wolf it was like you would get either Taki, God, that name, would be reading. And so like it would cut to that, and then it would cut to them like saying, let's go out to get a sandwich. And so then they would eat, and then he would see Captain Ransom. And then, like, so it always, I guess, like that working of this, like, well, I'm going to distract myself by either reading the book or seeing one of these characters from whatever's happening. So that, like, so I get that. And it just, it was just interesting because normally, like in other things, you usually have this like imaginary character appear being like, well, you should, I don't know, punch that Joey guy because he's doing something rough and tumble and wrong. But in this one, it's just like, I slipped out of the page and now I'm here smoking. And that was it. Yeah. And I was like, what is happening? And then there would be like the dog man. And you're just, I'm just a dog man. And you're like, okay.
Mr. Dogman. Well, so the Island of Dr. Death, which is why we have that Monroe introduction, it's a very cheesy pulp novel.
Yeah.
That's a rip-off of the Island of Dr. Monroe.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there was no other ways around it except that it was him writing a Dr. Moreau, but not Dr. Moreau.
Yeah, it was more pulpy than Dr. Monroe.
Yeah.
Oh gosh,
Well, we can get into it more, but I kind of like the first time I read this story, I was like, what the fuck did I just read?
Yeah.
But like the more I read the story, the more I appreciate it because it's kind of like a love letter to pulp fiction, like pulpy fiction, not Pulp Fiction, the movie.
Yeah.
That movie didn't exist when the story was written.
He just predicted.
He predicted that story. But no, I kind of see this to like a love letter to like pulpy books and like the idea that like even if your life is shitty or you're going through these really bad things or these mundane things or your life isn't going the way you want it to, books can help you out of a situation that you might not be happy in.
Yeah, I think, and that I think you had mentioned it either right before I listened to it or right after about the escapism and just kind of that love letter and like you can. And that helped a lot because, if I didn't really think in that world, this first listen would have just been like, well, this is weird. Just a lot of things are happening, but it doesn't like that makes more sense. And I appreciate that kind of idea of people using whatever book or, I'm sure now it'd be like a movie or a game, but using something to escape from crappiness or just even like looking and saying like, yeah, you know what, this might be a really over the top cheesy novel about dog people and this cave underground and stuff like that, but like this kid's using it because life really sucks for him right now and this is a good chance to escape.
Yeah, it's definitely a confusing story to read at points. Like I've taught this story in class to kind of teach the second person narrative.
Yeah,
because I do think the story does second person narration really well.
Yes,
but that being said, the story can be quite confusing.
Yeah. Well, I even like that now, kind of thinking about that second person, because he's telling you as the reader that it's okay to like and read this kind of stuff because you can use it. Your life might not be as tragic as Tacky, but you can still use this as a time to just go somewhere else. And because I think that all boils down at the very end of the story and that concept of I love that. And I know we're going to jump all over the place possibly for this, but that meta concept of, so at the very end, he's talking to Dr. Death, Tacky is, and Tacky's sad that the story ended. And Dr. Death is like, well, we're in a book. You can start it again and we'll all be there again, which is very cool. Like idea, thinking about revisiting your friends and your stories. But then he also ends it, Wolf ends it. It's like, well, even you'll start again. And like that meta idea of basically Dr. Death saying, hey, Tacky, you're in a story yourself. And like, if somebody reads this, you're coming back too. I was like, okay, that's pretty sweet.
I also like when the characters appear in real life, they appear based on the last thing that Tacky read in the book.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, sees Dr. Death at the end. He's like burned and like his clothes are all like burned up and stuff.
Yes. Well, I love Dr. Death was the only one out of the like groups that the people that show up, because I think, like we said, Captain Ransom shows up, and what was it, Joe Blow? What was the name of the dog?
Bruno.
Bruno. In this case, we are talking about Bruno. Yeah.
Yes.
Dr. Death was the only one that kind of like totally got what was happening, because he even references that when he's like, well, I just slipped out of that pages of that book you have right there. And it was like, oh, he knows what's up.
Yeah, I mean, I as a villain, he didn't strike me as a villain though.
Yeah, like I don't think we got enough.
We didn't get enough of the story to see how villainous he is.
Yeah.
But even in the Island of Dr. Monroe, like the story for the Island of Dr. Monroe isn't really the villain in that story either.
He's just just vivisecting and
he's vivisecting. It's grafting in the book.
Yeah.
in the Marlon Brando movie.
It's just just ignore the the concept of all those people that were experimented on for medical science.
Experimented on. But at the same time, it's like he's not portrayed as a super evil guy.
No, he's not. Especially because when you see him, for example, slip out of the pages for the first time, he's not being mean to Tacky. He's actually being really kind.
Yeah.
It's like he's like showing him respect and just like generally letting him know, like, I know you exist.
Yeah. I don't like, and that I wonder if, in getting probably maybe way deeper, but like, are these all part of his head? So is he making Dr. Death like him a little bit? Or was Dr. Death so smart at what's happening, knowing that like, well, he has no control over whatever this real world is, that he's just like, well, I'll just ride the wave and be like, you made me.
You mean like in The Last Action Hero?
Yeah, I know. That's why I keep like thinking about all those movies of like those meta movies and stuff of telling stories. Hell, I mean, didn't even I can't remember if the first Never-Ending Story or the second one end it with them like almost looking at the camera saying like, "We need your imagination."
Yeah.
So like this basically is all that.
So pretty much in the story, Taki lives with his mom, who's addicted to heroin and
No, it was amphetamine.
amphetamines. Yes, although heroin plays a role too.
Like, yeah, because at the end they're like, what did she shoot up? But like, what was it the doctor that gave him some? Like, that's yeah.
Yeah, the doctor is providing her with something. She's hooked on drugs.
Yeah.
Taki is just existing in this house.
Yeah, he's just existing.
The mother's like giving him empty promises. The boyfriend is treating him nice because he cares about the mom, but he doesn't really care about Taki. It's Taki. His mom will do what he wants for him.
Yeah, you can definitely see that when he steals the books for Taki, and he tells him like, "Be sure to tell your mom about this."
Yeah,
like when she wakes up, not now. Don't bother her now. But when she wakes up, yeah, tell her I did a good thing.
And then like, as all this is going on, as you mentioned, Taki escapes through the book, and as the story continues, Taki's life kind of spirals more out of control.
Yeah.
Which kind of plays into the whole like escapism into Pulp Fiction. Yeah. Like that house scene, every time we read the house, like the house party scene,
it was so weird.
It's so fucked up, honestly. Like part of it fucked up, but it's also like weird.
It felt like were they gonna hold a masquerade ball? But then when you read into the story, you're like, oh, so it's more like an Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah,
honestly, it's more just like kind of like an orgy, pretty much.
Yeah. I was gonna say it was like, okay, so
it's fucking and Taffy's just like there.
Yeah.
So like, what? All right, so you have the mom, which at first they make comments about her leaving, or like is from New York or something, where I kept trying to figure out like if she was somebody famous in that world, I
feel like it is because they lived in a 4-story house.
Yeah.
No, and she seemed like she was someone who was once famous, but her addiction like destroyed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So money left over from her fame and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I also think that's probably the reason why she didn't want to put Taki in school, because they would everyone would bombard him with questions about his mother.
Yeah, I was wondering that too, because you find out like halfway through that he's not going to school because she couldn't find the right school for him or something. So he just like bums around.
No. She said like she wanted to take him to the same private school that his dad had gone to.
Yeah. So
then he's just like, but where is that?
Yeah. So you have that. You have his mom, and then you have, we'll put in quotes, 2 aunts, and then a doctor who she's like arranged to get married to, while also sleeping around with just Joey dude. So like it's just like really weird. Yeah. I was just like, what? There was a lot happening, a lot of like character things popping up here where you're like, okay, she's gonna get married to this doctor, or maybe this doctor is taking care of her, and you have these aunts, and then you have the crazy party, which is just wild, like because you get all the people have masks, which sort of ties into the book because all the people they're like dog people and animal people. And then the one scene too we talked about where the ants see one of the characters, but then you also have that girl like totally freaking out on drugs, and she thinks she sees the people he's talking to too.
I mean, there is a possibility, like Rich said about reading between the lines. There is a possibility that while he was outside, and you would also kind of think like, why would you let a child go outside of a restaurant by herself? That they might have been maybe shooting drugs in the meantime.
Yeah, this does definitely warrant multiple reading / listens, I think, to pick up on all this. Because like you're, at least for me, I was like caught up on all of these things I'm bringing up. But then also it's like, well, maybe this all means something more. And there's another thing happening because, yeah, the aunt sees, because he's talking to Captain Ransom and she makes a comment.
No. He was talking to Dr. Death.
Was that the outside? I'm trying to remember. Like, okay,
the outside of the restaurant.
He was talking to Dr. Death outside.
Okay, because it's just the way what she says. It seemed like, oh, who's that kind of thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm just putting my own spin on it, but I was just like, oh, it's weird because they can kind of see what's happening, but then, like you said, maybe it is all drugs. Maybe just everything is drugs.
Could be. I mean, I also kind of get the feeling that because the names were so vague.
Yeah.
That especially like Dr. Black, I was like, who? What? So maybe he doesn't even know who these people are, and just by not associating with them, he just creates these names for them.
Oh, that's a good point.
To make them feel like, okay, they are often here, so they must be maybe part of the family.
Yeah.
Two is like pinpointing the story down can be difficult too because we have no idea when it takes place.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I do know when it was published. It was originally published in 1970.
Okay.
I mean, Jason is like driving a really like pretty loud convertible, right?
A Jaguar.
Oh, Jaguar, yeah. So I can imagine that it might be happening like in the 80s. Yeah. 70s, 80s.
The story was published in 1970.
Yeah.
The story collection it's in, The Island of Dr. Death and Other Stories, was published in 1980.
Just has like a funny issue with names and titles.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, that tacky name, I was just like, what kind of child is it's just so wacky. Oh my gosh.
One thing that I also liked about this is that how, even though it's like the stories in this story are completely different, you still find this kind of symbolism happening in both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like when we slip into the storyline of the Dr. Death story, you realize like when Captain Ransom saves that woman, she kind of reveals that like, oh, there's something more behind, and you're not gonna like it. But are you still gonna be able to trust me? And you see that also when Tacky is, in the house party. And he's like, there are a lot of things that you're not gonna see, but at the same time, do you still trust what is happening? Because he doesn't do anything. He just wanders around, like thinks, okay, I think this is okay, so I trust this.
Yeah.
I also love with the story how like he makes it so on the nose that it's Monroe, but like it's like I'm flipping through it now, and I just love the part where because part of the Island of Dr. Monroe is they have the laws of the animals.
Yeah,
like they must not walk on four legs, and that is they cannot walk on four legs. And in the book, it's we have the Beastman talking to Ransom and goes, "Not to walk all four on ground." The Beastman holding Ransom muttered, "That is the law."
Yeah, that was so you was Bruno the good dog? Who was the good dog?
The Saint Bernard dog? Yeah.
Yes.
Bruno was the good dog.
So I will say for our listeners, and I don't know if you guys captured.
Polo was the bad dog. Bruno was the good dog.
But Bruno they're like, at one point, Captain Ransom's like, well, the Saint Bernard's like the most noble of dogs, and our Saint Bernard's like, yeah, we can smell evil, and he smells the evil on the girl, who, again, questionable, and just as for listeners, they call the woman Long Eyes, the tribe of Long Eyes. Was that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a little like, Okay, again,
Racist?
1970. Yeah, everything like that. But I did have to like a little double take. I was like, long eyes. All right. And
I
like,
mean, he did say in the beginning when we're introduced to Captain Ransom that he was somewhere in New Guinea.
yeah. So you a little bit of that would be of her, and I can't remember if they give her a name. I mean, they probably did.
It was Talal or Taral or something like that.
Yeah, and so she's from some tribe deeper in the jungle, and they're even the darker evil of the Dr. Death Island. And it's just that's where the beast people don't go, or if they go, they don't come back. But yeah, so I did, and like I was like, well, it's an interesting choice to put in there. But again, 1970, I guess that happened. So, but in case somebody's listening and then they want to go listen to the story, that is in there.
I also like some of the symbols in the story too. Is one part that underlined. It talks about the this little part here. It goes, when a tree is very old and yet still lives, sometimes the limbs are strangely twisted.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And like I feel that has a lot to do with like Taki's own life and the perspective that he's seeing.
Yeah.
And dealing with.
That's what I was referring to. How it blends in together.
Yeah.
Like there are similar similarities happening in both worlds.
Yeah. Now that I can see that more. So maybe I retract a little bit of my statement from earlier because like it did at first, but that does make sense. And that's what I kept looking for. Maybe I was looking too hard to be like, is this Dr. Death story going to be like a direct correlation to what's happening with Taki? But some of it is, and some of it isn't. Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. It was a fun listen for sure.
I loved the ending also. It was a sad ending that he has to end up in an orphanage, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or yeah, but then Dr. Death just sits there, just having escaped burning alive and in his lap. Yeah. And he just sits next to him and he's like, it's not over. I mean, you don't have to finish the book. You can start over again. And you know what? You can do that too.
Yeah. Like especially it's funny you bring that up because like you get like his mom, they saved her, but she needs a lot of help. So he's going to this, like you said, orphanage. And just now I'm remembering because I think Taki looked sad, and that's what like Dr. Death is like, well, why are you sad? And he's like, well, because the book's done. And it's not even about like, I'm in this orphan.
The book's almost over, and he doesn't want to finish it.
Yeah. So he's fully escaped.
I'm trying to find the quote too. There's one quote I like from Dr. Death where he says like, him and Captain Ransom, it's like they're wrestlers on the stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's happening in the book isn't real. They're just playing characters that are fighting supposed to.
Yeah. And he says something like, we've done it before and we'll do it again, or something like that. And which I like that option or that choice to make our somewhat villain of Dr. Death like understand what's happening and fully like get the like thing, because I haven't read Island of Dr. Moreau, so I'm not sure, but the idea of making Ransom kind of the dumb hero who fully buys into himself, I like that idea of being like, all right, well, he's just dumb and he believes he's the hero, and Dr. Death is like, well, I know we're just playing a game.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to read like the very end because I just think it's really touching. It's like they go away and you pick up the book and rifle the pages, but you do not read. At your elbow, Dr. Death says, "What's the matter, Taki?" He smells of scorched cloth and there is a streak of blood across his forehead, but he smiles and lights one of his cigarettes. You hold up the book. I don't want it to end. You'll be killed at the end. And you don't want to lose me? That's touching. You will, won't you? You'll burn up in the fire, and Captain Ransom will go away and leave Talar. Dr. Death smiles. But if you start the book again, we'll all be back. Even Golo and the Bullman. Honest? Certainly. He stands up and tousles your hair. It's the same with you, Taki. You're too young to realize it yet, but it's the same with you. Like, I think it's really like bittersweet. Like, it's really like beautiful ending.
Yeah, I really liked it. It was just like it ended on a hopeful note,
Yeah. Also, I have an afterword in my edition because I have the best of Gene Wolfe.
Oh,
And Gene Wolfe doesn't really talk too much about what this story is about. But all he says is this. He says, "This story got me the friendship of Isaac Asimov and fathered 3 sequels, 2 of which are in this book. It was, you see, my first ever Nebula nomination. So Rosemary and I," that's his wife, Rosemary, journeyed to New York for the banquet, and Isaac was announcing the winners, beginning with Best Short Story, and he named this story. I rose to accept, and the committee swarmed on Isaac. He had been given a list, not just the winner, but 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th place finishers. The winner had been no award, which Isaac, understandably, assuming that some story would have won, had skipped and apologized profusely. And then afterward, I explained repeatedly that he had honored me. He'd also gotten me a great deal of sympathy in the SFWA. Grinning, John Jakes said, "You know, Gene, if you just write The Death of Dr. Island now, you'd win." He thinks I can't do it, I thought. We'll see about that. But that's another story, one you'll find later in this book.
That's sweet.
yeah.
So yeah, like, and The Death of Dr. Island, I've read it before, but I don't remember liking it as much as this one. So I never revisited it, but maybe I'll give it another go. I remember it being more of like a hard sci-fi story.
Huh.
This one was, and it carried some of the same themes, but it wasn't what I was expecting being like connected to this one. So I was a bit disappointed when I first read it. But maybe I'll try it again to try to have a clear mind and see what I think the next time.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it'd be interesting.
But yeah, like, I don't know, I just think it's a really sweet story that, like, you don't really expect it to end the way it does and to kind of have the commentary that it does.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just think it works really well, at least for me.
Yeah, definitely.
This is both your first Gene Wolfe stories. So what was your impression of good old Gene?
I mean,
rest in peace.
I enjoy, not occasionally, not all the time, but I enjoy stories that, like you said, that you need to read between the lines, that you can explore the themes and the notes of what's happening in the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I think like Gene Wolfe, a lot of his stuff is like that. And I think like that's partly why people like him, but it's also why he's not like the super like popular sci-fi author is. He's hard to get into.
Yeah.
People have called him the Melville of science fiction.
Huh.
And I think that there's a reason for that. Like, I'd say his most famous book is probably Book of the New Sun, which is like a 4-book cycle that is told from the point of view of an unreliable narrator.
Oh.
So like the whole time you're reading the story, you're reading it from the perspective of somebody who's lying to you. And you never get the other perspective. So you got to read between the lines to figure out what the truth is. Because the truth is buried in the lies.
That sounds interesting.
I can see someone like who likes true crime series and stuff gonna put like a cork board to start deciphering everything.
Like Charlie, so Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Pepe Sylvia. We keep getting this through. Pepe Sylvia.
Yes.
Sylvia.
Oh man, no, I had a lot of fun with it. I would definitely check out more of his work.
Yeah, I would say like if you want to check out more of his work, I have read the first half of Book of the New Sun, which they sell Book of the New Sun in 2 books. Books 1 and 2 are 1 book, and books 3 and 4 are the second book. And I thought like the first 2 Book of the New Sun books were really, really good. So if you want something longer, I'd recommend that. But just remember, the narrator's lying to you the entire time. Also, the 5th Head of Cerberus is a really good book too. If you want to do a short fiction, I just suggest Best of Gene Wolfe. He has 1 book I haven't read yet that Neil Gaiman thinks is one of the best books. Let me try to find the title for it real quick. I think it was one of his first books that he wrote. He wrote a book called Peace, and it is a psychological ghost story with no ghosts.
Interesting.
But like sometimes you read like Neil Gaiman says every time he reads it, he views the story a different way. He says, Wolfe has described Peace as his favorite of his own work, as it is the one where he came closest to achieving his original goals. Neil Gaiman, who has frequently praised the novel, said Peace really was a gentle Midwestern memoir the first time I read it. It only became a horror novel on the second or the third reading.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
He's just a writer that I don't think achieved mainstream success because he's too complicated. And that can be a good thing and that can be a bad thing.
Yeah.
I think sometimes I like my brain being poked at and making my brain do some extra work. And I think that can be rewarding, but I understand why a lot of people kind of don't like having to exercise that extra muscle because we're reading to be entertained. We're not reading to do work.
Yeah.
I don't have a story picked up for next week. I'm still talking to a few different guests. If I don't have anything for next weekend, I know Vitlame, there was a story that you wanted to discuss.
Yeah, I think so. I just need to find it.
So we could do your choice for next week.
Yeah.
And I'm
Sweet.
working on getting some guests in, so we might be having some authors from Encyclopocalypse be coming on in the future.
Okay,
That's
nice.
awesome.
That's really exciting. I've been exchanging emails with them. So
Oh, actually, I think we should maybe for next week, I'll pick up story from Diet Riot.
Oh yeah.
I'm actually, speaking of Diet
yeah.
Riot, maybe we could do that next week, but I can announce this now. Sonora Taylor and Nico Bell will be coming on in the future next month, on the 18th particularly, to discuss Diet Riot with us.
Okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
Either we do a teaser.
We can do a teaser for Diet Riot and then dive into a whole big thing.
Okay, yeah,
Yes.
that sounds good.
Awesome.
All right. Vitlame, where can our listeners get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with me on Twitter at VitlemayS. And maybe hopefully next month they will be able to see me bouncing off on TikTok as Vitlame Mist and as Fang Pipsqueak Reads on BookTube.
And Matt, what about you?
I am on Twitter at BrandonbergDM.
And you can follow Staring Into the Abyss at Into Staring. I'm going to try to be more active on the podcast Twitter account so we can try to gain more followers into the algorithm. Please also leave us some reviews, the 5-star reviews, 1-star reviews, I don't care. Review us. All the reviews help in the algorithm. If you hate us, review us. If you love us, review us. If you come across us, just leave us a 3-star review saying, hey, this page looks kind of cool, so here's 3 stars. anything helps us in the algorithm, and it just spreads it across. You can also follow me at Rudy53088, and this is Richard Gerlach saying, keep staring.